the back cross. In the back cross, what we can do is, it is a simple monohybrid cross till the F1 generation. For example, if you take the same example, the tall plant and the dwarf plant, you can get the tall plant and the dwarf plant. The combination of it will be the F1 generation, that will be the that will be having all the tall plants. And then when the F1 generation is crossed with either of the parent, that is, it can be the tall one or it can be the recessive one. So once you cross the plant with the cross the plants which you get in the F1 generation with any of the parent, either it is a tall one or the pure dwarf one, then the product that you get, that will be tested, and there here you will get the 50% pure tall and 50% hybrid tall. Now this happens because as we know that the F1 generation which is there, it will be producing two different types of genes or two different types of gametes, that will be capital T and small t. And in the first generation, that is in the first generation, that is the parental generation or the P1 generation, the tall plant or the tall plants will be having both the capital T. So when we see the probability square, we can understand that the tall plant along with the back cross done with the F1 generation, they will give you 50% pure tall plant and 50% hybrid tall plant. So the ratio is 1:1, that is the tall all tall plants in the phenotypes, and in genotypic ratio it will be 1:1, that is one pure tall capital T and one hybrid tall, that will be capital T and small t. So this is the back cross. We can see that the back cross which is there, it can be done with any of the two parents. So a back cross can be a test cross. But if you see the test cross has to be done only with the recessive parent. It is to test what is the genotype of the F1 generation, and hence a test cross cannot be a back cross, but a back cross can be a test cross. So this is a question frequently asked in the exams, where that explain why a test cross can be a back cross, but a back cross cannot always be a test cross. So this is what is the explanation here. In back cross, what we do, we cross the parents of the F1 generation, or we cross the F1 generation with any of the two parent. But in test cross, we have to cross the F1 generation with only the recessive parent, and hence the back cross can be a test cross, but a test cross is not always a back cross. Then we have seen the Mendelian genetics. We have also seen the law of various laws which were derived by the Mendel. The first law was law of dominance, the second law was law of segregation of gametes, and the third law is law of independent assortment. Now the next thing that we need to know, which Mendel couldn't explain and which is actually existing, which the scientists found that there are things which are happening against the Mendelian law, and hence we call it as the deviations from Mendelian theory or deviations from the Mendelian ratio. So the ratios got changed because of the certain combinations in the gene which students have seen, and that's why we call it as deviations. That is, these are the changes, or these are the non-Mendelian genetic theory which we need to know. So the first concept in this this is nothing but it is the incomplete dominance. As explained by the Mendel, there are only two types of genes, the one which is dominant and the another which will be the recessive one. But if you see the incomplete dominance, in that we can take example of the plants which are red color and white color. Now if the plant which is a red color, which is pure line plant or true breeding plant, it will have the genotypes as capital R and capital R. And the plant which is white color, which is a recessive one, which will be again a pure line plant or a true breeding plant, it will have the genotypes as small r and small r. So the gametes produced by the red color flower, the plant which is having red color flower, will be capital R, and the gametes which are produced by the white color flower, that will be the small r. Now when we cross these two, we will get the product that will be all pink color. So this is the deviation from the Mendelian theory, where the according to the Mendelian theory, it should be actually the red color which is the dominant one, but the red color is not seen. That means it is showing the different color, that is the combination of the two colors. So the red color which is there, it has been incompletely dominating the white color, and hence the color that we get in the first generation is nothing but it is the pink color. So the ratio that we can see, that is the phenotypic ratio in this case, when we see the Punnett square, you can see in the diagram, according to the ratio, we will see the phenotypic ratio is 1 red, 2 pink and 1 white. So This is the phenotypic ratio, and the genotypic ratio will be again the same, that will be 1 RR capital R, 2 capital R small r, and 1 small r small r. So the phenotypic and the genotypic ratio are exactly the same, that is 1:2:1, where in phenotypic ratio we will have the red color flower, the pink color flower, and the white color flower. And in the genotypic ratio, we will have the genotypes as capital R, small r, and small r, small r. The ratio will be the same for phenotype and the genotype, that will be 1:2:1. On both the sides, that will be 1:2:1. So this is what is the incomplete dominance, where we can see that the genes are incompletely dominating. The red color which is there is incompletely expressed in the F1 generation, and then we got the pink color flowers. When the F1 generation was allowed to do selfing, we got the F2 generation, and in the F2 generation we have seen the phenotypic as well as the genotypic ratios. Now the second law, which is again a non-Mendelian theory, that is nothing but it is a codominance. Codominance, the word itself suggests that dominant, or both the characters or both the genes are dominant. So codominance, we can take example of the cow which is a red color and the bull which is white color. So the combination of it in the first generation, we will get a red color cow with a white color cow with the patches on its skin of the red color. So that will be the combination of it, and hence both the genes, that is the red color gene and the white color gene, both the genes are expressed simultaneously. So if you go according to the Mendelian theory, we can see that the red color, which will be giving the genes which genotypes as capital R, and the white color will be giving you the genotypes as small, capital Y and capital W and capital W. We are taking both the here we are taking both the alphabets as capital, because both the genes are dominant, and hence both the genes are expressed in the next generation. So this is how we can explain the codominance, taking both the letters as capital for both the colors or both the traits in the cow and the bull. Now this red color cow with the white color bull, the combination of it, you will get the white cow or a white bull with the patches of red color on it. This will be the F1 generation. And when the F1 generation is produced again to give the F2 generation, in the F2 generation we can see that the plants, the products or the cattle that we get is nothing but it will be having the different varieties. That means it will be having one pure red, two roan color. Roan is nothing but it is a combination of the two colors, that is both the genes are expressed simultaneously. When it is white cow or with the red patches, it is called as the roan color. So one red color cow you will get, then two red color cow or bull, whatever it is, and then one white color cow or bull, whatever. So that will be there. So this ratio of the phenotype is nothing but it is the 1:2:1. Again the genotypes, if you see, the red color will be having capital R, the white color will be having capital Y, and the roan color which will be there, it will be having capital R and capital Y. So both the genes are expressed in the roan color, so capital R and capital W. So we have the genotypic ratio as 1 RR is to 2 RW is to 1 RW, is to 1 WW. So that will be the genotypic ratio. I repeat the genotypic ratio. It will be 1 RR is to 2 RW is to 1 WW. So that is the genotypic ratio of the codominance. So we have seen the codominance and we have also seen incomplete dominance. In incomplete dominance, we have seen that when the plant which is having red color flower and the plant which is having white color flower, when they were cross pollinated, we could get the plants which are having pink color, which is against the law of Mendelian theory, that indicates that the one gene that is there, which is the dominant one, is incompletely dominating or incompletely expressed, and hence it is called as the incomplete dominance. Whereas if you see the codominance, in the codominance, both the genes are expressed simultaneously in the same ratio or in the same quantity. So both the genes are called as the dominant gene, and hence both the genes are expressed with the capital letter, and we get the products which will be having the combination of the two, that will be the red and the white will give you the roan color, that will be the combination of the two colors. So this is what is the codominance, both the genes are expressed simultaneously. So the next non-Mendelian genetics, that is a deviation from the Mendelian theory that we will be seeing, is the multiple alleles. More than two alternative forms of a gene in the gene in a population occupying the same locus of the chromosome will be called as the multiple alleles. That means there will be two or more alternative forms of the genes on the same gene locus on the chromosome, and they will be representing the different character. So the the gene which is there, which will be the dominant one, which will be the normal one. For example, if you take the Drosophila, the wings of the Drosophila are of different types, and these different types of wings, they will be having the different phenotypes or the different genotypes. So the genes which are there, they are occupying the same gene locus, and they are having variations in the genes, and they are present on the same gene locus. So they are called as two or more alternative forms of the genes which are present on the same gene locus and representing the same character. Then if you see the Drosophila, the wings of the Drosophila, the phenotypes and the genotypes are given as per the table. You can see that the first one, that is the normal wings, if they are there, the genes will be VG plus. For the genes, for the phenotype, that is for the wings which are naked wings, they will be having the genes like VGNI. For notched wings, there will be VGNO, and for strap wings, it will be VGST. For vestigial wings, that is the wings, only the vestigial organ is there and actually the wings are not present, that will be having the VG. So these are all the different types of genes which will be seen on the different types of wings of the Drosophila. So the different types of wings, again I'll repeat, the normal wings, if they are there, they will be having the genes as VG plus. If the genes are naked, it will be having VGNI. If the genes are notched, it will be having VGNO, and if the genes are strapped, it will be having VGST. So for the vestigial genes, it will be VG. These are all the genes which are seen in the Drosophila wings. Then another example that you can take in the multiple alleles is nothing but it is the blood group. The gene I is controlling the blood group in case of the human beings. So the different types of blood groups that we can see in humans is A, B, AB and O. These all four types of blood groups are controlled by the same single gene, that will be the I gene. The I gene will be having the, so we will see the phenotypes and the genotypes. According to the genotypes, that is for the blood group A, that will be the phenotype of the person. For the blood group A, the genotype will be IAIA, and it can be IA and small I. The small I is the recessive gene. So it can be the capital capital IA, and capital IA or I. So this will be, all genes are there for the blood group A. For the blood group B, it will be capital IA, capital IB, and it can be capital IA and small I. So that can also be there, capital IB and small I. So that can also be there for blood group B. For blood group AB, it will be capital IA and capital IB. So this will be representing the blood group AB, and both the genes are present on the same gene loci of the chromosome, and they will be representing the same blood group. That will be IA and IB will be giving you the blood group that will be A and B. Then another blood group that we know is the O blood group, and the O blood group genes will be all having the small genes of I, that will be small I and small I. So the small I represent the blood group of the person will be O. Then, so these are all the multiple alleles we have seen. Multiple alleles is nothing but the more than two alternative forms of the genes which are present on the same gene loci on the chromosome. For example, we have seen the Drosophila wings, we have seen the different types of Drosophila wings and the different genotypes that we can see in this Drosophila wings. And then we have seen that the blood group in human beings, that is the four different types of blood group that we have, is controlled by a single gene, that is the I. But in I we have the variations. For example, in blood group A we can have capital IA and capital IA, both the genes on the same chromosome, on homologous chromosome. And then similarly we can have capital IA and small I, that will be again representing the blood group A. Then capital IA, capital IB and capital IB, that will be the two genes, and then capital IB and small I, that will be again representing the blood group B. So capital IA, capital IB will be representing the blood group AB, and small I will be representing the blood group O. So these are the multiple alleles. Then another thing that Mendel could not explain, which is a fact and which is again a non-Mendelian genetics, that is called as the pleiotropy. Pleiotropy is nothing but when a single gene controls controls two or more different traits. That is a single gene will be representing the more than one character. For example, if you take the sickle cell anemia, in sickle cell anemia, if we take example of the two carriers which are having sickle cell anemia. For example, the mother is also a carrier for sickle cell anemia and the father is also carrier for sickle cell anemia. We call them as carrier because they are having one gene which is normal and another gene which is abnormal, or it is true for sickle cell anemia. And this will be having HbA and HbS. Now HbA is for normal and HbS is for sickle cell anemia. We call the person as carrier because it is having both the genes and it is expressing both the genes. So one gene is controlling more than one character, that is, it can be normal also, it can be sickle cell anemia also. So togetherly we call it as carrier. Now if two carriers are there which are having the genotypes as HbA and HbS, both the carriers will be producing the same type of gametes, that will be HbA and HbS. So the two gametes which will be having HbA and HbS will be fusing with each other, and we will get four different types of phenotypes of genotypes. Now the four different types that we will be getting, or the four, actually the number should be 4 and 3 types are there. So in that we will get one chance of getting a normal one, 2 chance of getting the abnormal one or the carrier one, and the last 1 chance is getting the sickle cell anemia person who will die of sickle cell anemia. So here we can see that when the two carriers are marrying with each other, there are 4 kids which can be produced, and the phenotypic ratio will be 1 normal, 2 sickle cell carrier, and 1 will be the sickle cell anemia person who will die. The genotype, if you see, of this will be the same. The genotypic ratio will be same. That is 1:2:1. One HbA HbA, 2 HbA HbS, and 1 HbS HbS. If both the SS gene are present, that the person will die because of sickle cell anemia. If one gene of normal and one gene of sickle cell anemia is there, then the person will survive, but he is a carrier. He still has the gene, and it can be if it marries to a carrier again, then it can also have the child who will be dying of sickle cell anemia. Then the another gene that is there, that will be having the that will be in the normal one, that will be in the ratio 1. So the phenotypic ratio 1:2:1, and genotypic ratio is also 1:2:1.
No more spending your energy and money on coaching classes, or missing classes for rain, for rally, and any other nonsense. Subjects covered by multiple teachers with repeat telecasts. Doubts, concepts, applications, no problem. All explained through great and significant animation. So sit back comfortably in your home and watch Study Spectrum TV channel.
So let us know what is sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is a genetic disorder in which the RBCs which are there, they form the sickle shape. Because of the sickle shape, the binding of the oxygen, and that is the oxyhemoglobin complex, is not formed properly, and hence the oxygen is not supplied to the cells, to the body properly, and that is why the person who is there will die because of the sickle cell anemia. Also, the shape, it is changed. The RBCs are normally oval in shape, but in sickle cell anemia, the RBCs become sickle shape, and because of this, the flow of the blood through the arteries and through the veins is not proper, and because of which the arteries and veins block, and this blockage can again lead to the death of the person because of the sickle cell anemia. So this is what is sickle cell anemia, which is a genetic disorder in which the person's cells which are there, the RBCs which are normally oval in shape, they form the sickle shape, because of which the binding of the hemoglobin, binding of the oxygen to the hemoglobin, that is the formation of the oxyhemoglobin complex, will not take properly, because of which the oxygen will not be supplied to the various body parts, and then the person will lack in oxygen and will die because of the deficiency of oxygen to the body. Then also the shape which is there is abnormal for the flow or the normal flow of the blood through the vessels, and then the vessels will be blocked, because of, again, the person can die because of the sickle cell anemia. So these are all the symptoms which we can see. The sickle cell anemia person who is there will be mentally also abnormal, and then we can see that the child will not grow, it will die very soon. So the next non-Mendelian theory that we will see is nothing but the polygenic inheritance. As we all know that in human beings we have seen the variations in the color, height, the intelligence. So these all variations, or these all characters which are there, they are expressed by two or more genes, and these gene pair, they combine together, or they will give an additive or cumulative effect of the gene, and then we will get the variations. For example, in humans also, we can see the variations in the color. There are various grades of dark, then mulatto, intermediate, fair, very fair. Albino person is there who is not at all having the pigment, that is the melanin pigment in the body. So these are all the variations are there because there are two or more genes involved in expression of the same gene, and that's why it is called as the polygenic inheritance. In polygenic inheritance, we can see that a single character is represented by more than one gene, and hence we call it as polygenic inheritance. For example, we can take the kernel of the wheat. The kernel of the wheat has two different grades, that is the dark red and the white color. But if we see the cross between the dark red and the white color, we can get the various types, that is the 5 different phenotypes we can see. And these 5 different phenotypes will be in the ratio 1:4:6:4:1. So these 5 different phenotypes that we will be seeing, we will get it through the 2 different types of plants that will be having red color kernel and white kernel wheat kernel. So when we cross the plant which is having red wheat kernel and white wheat kernel, then we will get the plants which will be showing the intermediate of the two, that will be the pink or light red, intermediate red rather, we can call it as intermediate red in wheat kernel color. And this will be the F1 generation. If you see the F2 generation, according to the Punnett square or according to the Checkers board method, we can see that there are different types of genotypes and different phenotypes that we can see in the cross. That is, during selfing we can get the in the F2 generation we can get one darkest red color plant which is having one darkest red color kernel. Then medium red color kernel will be there, which will be 4. Then we can see intermediate red color kernel will be there, which will be 6. There will be light red color kernel, which will be 4, and then the white color kernel, which will be 1. So the ratio, the phenotypic ratio here, we can see that it is 1 darkest red is to 4 medium red is to 6 intermediate red is to 4 light red is to 1 white. So if you see the genotypes here, we can see in the red color we have the capital A and capital B, capital B. For the white color we represent it as small a and small b, small b. So if these genes will produce the gametes, the capital A will be producing the gametes which will be having the capital A and capital B. And in the case of white, we will get the plants which will be having the genes as the gametes as small a and small b. So these two gametes togetherly they will fuse and they will get a plant which will be intermediate red, and that will be having the genes as capital A small a, capital B small b, and that again will split and will form the 4 different combinations, that will be capital A capital B, capital A small b, small a capital B, and small a small b. So these all togetherly they will give you the 5 different types of phenotypes and 5 different types of genotypes as well. Another example in this we can see that there is if the albino person will marry a negro which will be completely dark color, then we will get the different ratio, and that also we will see in this example. So another example in polygenic inheritance that we should know is nothing but between the color gradations that we see in human beings. We see that there are various colors which are there, pure black color, then very dark brown, then dark brown mulatto, that is the savla we call it as, which is intermediate between the white and the dark, and then there will be fair, very fair, or there will be albino person also who will not have the pigment at all, and that person will be completely white. So if we see a cross between a black person and an albino person, the genes will be represented for the black person by the genotype will be capital A, capital A, capital B, capital B, capital C, capital C. So the three different genes are involved for the same thing, that is the color of the person. So same character is represented by the three different genotypes. And then the albino person who is completely white, the genes will be recessive for them, and then they will be represented as small a, small b, and small c. So the gametes which will be produced by the black person will be capital A, capital B, capital C, and the gametes which will be produced by the albino person will be small a, small b, and small c. So in the F1 generation, if we cross these two person, which is black and albino, and if they are mating with each other, then we will get an intermediate color that will be the mulatto one, that will be savla, which we call it as, which will be intermediate between the two different colors. So that will be the genotypes, or the genotypes of that person will be capital A, small a, capital B, small b, capital C, small c. And hence, if we see the phenotypic ratio according to the Punnett square, if you see the F2 generation, in the F2 generation we can get around 64 different types, or 64 types of colors, and 64 different types of genes, or 7 different types of phenotypes, and these 7 different types of phenotypes will be distributed as per the ratio. I will tell you the ratio first. That is, it is 1:6:15:20:15:15:6:1. So this ratio which is there, it is in the sequence of 1 pure black, then 6 very dark brown, 15 dark brown, 20 mulatto, 15 fair, 6 very fair, and 1 will be completely white, that will be pure white. So this is the ratio 1:6:15:20:15:6:1. These are all the different phenotypes which we can see: a pure dark person, very dark brown, mulatto, fair, very fair, and pure white. 7 different types of phenotypes are seen with the combinations between the 3 different types of genes which are there in the person who is a black person and an albino person. So these different genes will combine and they will give you different ratios. And these ratios are counted. When you count the genotypic ratio, we count it as when there are all 6 dominant genes are there, then that person will be pure black. When the 5 dominant genes are there, that person will be very dark brown. When the 4 dominant genes are there, the person will be dark brown. When there are 3 dominant genes, then there will be mulatto, and 2 dominant genes, the person will be fair. 1 dominant gene, the person will be very fair, and none of the dominant gene is there. All the genes which are there, they will all the 6 genes which are there, all the genes are recessive, and that person will be called as the albino person. So this is what is polygenic inheritance, where one character will be represented by more than one genes, and then we get the variations in the different characters. So we have seen the Mendelian theory and we have seen the non-Mendelian theory as well.
No more spending your energy and money on coaching classes, or missing classes for rain, for rally, and any other nonsense. Subjects covered by multiple teachers with repeat telecasts. Doubts, concepts, applications, no problem. All explained through great and significant animation. So sit back comfortably in your home and watch Study Spectrum TV channel.
Seen the chapter genetic basis of inheritance. In that we have seen Mendel as the father of genetics, because he has given the concept that is like begets like. That indicates that similar characters or the similar factors which are there, they are been transferred from one generation to another. And this concept of like begets like explains why a particular plant will give rise to that particular fruit only. For example, a papaya will give rise to a papaya only, a mango will give rise to a mango only, and so on. So these all things happen because the genetic the genes which are there, they are being transferred from one generation to another, and Mendel was the first to think over this, and hence we call him as the father of genetics. Then we have seen the history of Mendel, that he died without being known as the father of genetics. After his death, his papers were taken up by some students, and then they found that the discovery that the Mendel did, or the study that Mendel did on garden pea plant, was really beneficial to know or to clear the concepts of genetics, and hence a new field in biology came into existence, that is nothing but the genetics. And then we have also seen that Mendel selected the garden pea plant. There are various reasons for the selection of this garden pea plant. The garden pea plant is a plant which is an annual plant, and it has many contrasting characters. Plus the short lifespan which the garden pea plant is having made Mendel easy to conclude the results and to do his experiments frequently. So there were many other reasons which we have seen why Mendel selected the garden pea plant, and because of this Mendel got success in his experiments. Also, Mendel, while performing his experiments, used to do a systematic study of each and everything. When he started studying, he used to study a single character at a time. That is, when he was studying a monohybrid cross, he studied a single character at a time. For dihybrid cross, he studied the two characters at a time, and so on. So the characters which he studied and the basis of his studies was very systematic. He has also used a Punnett square, that is a probability box, to find out what can be the probability of the next generation, that is the F1 generation. If they are finding, then what will be the product that we will get from the F1 generation, and what will be the F2 generation out of the F1 generation. So using the probability box, he has found that there are many there are possibilities of getting many different types, and based on the monohybrid cross, he has come to the conclusion that there is a dominant character and a recessive character, and he has also made two laws out of the monohybrid cross, that is the law of dominance and law of independent assortment. So when he studied the law of dominance, he explained that in a particular in a monohybrid cross, when the two parents are having two contrasting characters, there will be one gene that will be expressed and another gene will be suppressed. So the gene which will be expressed is called as the dominant gene, and the gene which will be suppressed is called as the recessive gene. And then the second law that he has made out of this was the law of independent assortment. It says that the genes which are there, they segregate out separately in the next generation, and they do not mix with each other. He has also shown the law of segregation of gametes, that is also almost similar to the law of independent assortment, which shows that the genes segregate out separately in the next generation. And the law of independent assortment says that the genes which are there, they will be independent of each other if we consider the dihybrid cross. In dihybrid cross, two genes come together and they are independent of each other. Their expression or their inheritance pattern is independent of each another. Then we have also seen the non-Mendelian genetics. In the non-Mendelian genetics, we have seen the codominance, incomplete dominance, we have seen pleiotropy, multiple alleles, polygenic inheritance. So these are all the things which we have studied in the chapter genetic basis of inheritance. I hope that you have understood the chapter, and we will have a quick revision or a quick question and answer session for this chapter. So the first question that we need to see in this chapter is why Mendel selected garden pea plant for his experiments. The first reason for selection of garden pea plant is that it is an annual plant. That means the plant grows throughout the year. Any season, any time, he can do the experiments using this plant. So the first reason is the garden pea plant is an annual plant, and hence Mendel selected the garden pea plant, that is scientifically known as Pisum sativum, for his experiments. Then the second reason for selection of this plant is nothing but the plant has a short lifespan. The lifespan of this plant is just 3 to 4 months. If I plant the plant the seeds today, then within 3 to 4 months I'll get the seeds, I'll get the new seeds, a new plant with the new seeds within 3 to 4 months. So this is why the Mendel selected the garden pea plant, because the experiments were conducted after every 3 to 4 months, and hence the results were seen after every 3 to 4 months. Then the another reason for selection of this plant is it is a bisexual flower and it can do self-pollination. Bisexual flower means if the same flower is having the male as well as the female organ, and hence self-pollination was possible. This was the basis of his experiments, because while doing cross-pollination he also did emasculation. So the another reason for selection of this plant is that it has the large flowers to do easy emasculation, and emasculation could be easily done because the flowers were large. It was easy to remove the male organ and hence do cross pollination. So for doing experiments he has to do cross pollination, and for cross pollination he has to do emasculation in a bisexual flower. So emasculation was easily done. Then another reason for selection of this plant is nothing but the plant which is there, it has many contrasting characters. For example, we have seen the height of the stem. There were plants which are having tall height and there were plants which are having dwarf height. There was no intermediate character between it. That means all plants which were tall, they will be produced, if they are true breeding, they will be producing only tall plants, and all dwarf plants which are dwarf, they are true breeding and they will be producing only dwarf plant. So there was no intermediate character. The characters were exactly contrasting, exactly different from each other, and that is why the Mendel selected garden pea plant. Then another contrasting character that we need to know is the seed shape, the seed color, the pod shape, pod color, the flower shape, flower color, and so on. So these are all the characters which Mendel has studied, and then he understood that there are many contrasting characters in the same flower, and so we can use this plant for the hybridization experiments. That's why Mendel selected the garden pea plant for his hybridization experiments. We will revise this question. You have to write stepwise. The first answer will be that it is an annual plant. Then the second point will be that it has a short lifespan. Third point will be that it is a bisexual flower and hence do emasculation. Fourth point was it had a large flower, because of which cross pollination was possible, emasculation was possible. And then fifth point was it has many contrasting characters. We need to explain the seven contrasting characters, the dominant as well as the recessive. For example, if you take the height of the stem, tall is the dominant one and dwarf is the recessive one. Similarly, the seed color, the seed shape, the pod color, the pod shape, the seed coat color, the flower position, the flower color, these all things, these are were the seven contrasting characters which we need to explain in details while explaining this answer, that is why Mendel selected the garden pea plant for his experiments. Then the next question that we need to know is what is a monohybrid cross? Explain with a suitable example. So when we need to know what is a monohybrid cross, first of all we should write the definition of the monohybrid cross. So monohybrid cross is a cross between the parents which are having only one contrasting character. That means if you consider the height of the stem, the plants which are having the contrasting character, that one plant is having tall height and another plant is having dwarf height, only these two characters will be different, rest all characters will be same. So this is called as a monohybrid cross. If you consider the flower color also, one will be the colored one and another one will be the white one. The flower position, the height of the stem, the bud color, the pod color, the seed color, everything will be same. Only one difference will be there. That means that one flower will be having only white color flowers and another plant will be having only colored flowers, that is the purple colored flowers. So these are the two contrasting characters and they are having only one pair of contrasting character and hence it is called as the monohybrid cross. So monohybrid cross is a cross between the two parents having only one pair of contrasting character. Then we need to explain it with a suitable example. So while explaining this, we need to we have to give a diagrammatic representation of the monohybrid cross, where we need to first show what is a P1 generation. Like it is given in the picture, what is a P1 generation? P1 generation will be the parental generation. You can explain the phenotype of the P1 generation. Then the phenotype of the plant, you can take it as the tall and the dwarf one. Then Genotype for the tall plant will be capital T, and for the dwarf plant will be small t and small t. The gametes which are produced by the tall plant will be capital T only, and by the dwarf plant will be small t only. Then when they fuse with each other, they will give you the F1 generation, and that F1 generation will be having the plants which will all be tall. But if you see the genotype of the F1 generation, they will be having both the genes that will be from the tall as well as the dwarf one, and hence we call it as the genotype of this F1 generation can be represented as capital T and small t. When we find out the F2 generation, in the F2 generation we can see that using a Punnett square, the gametes which will be there of the F1 generation will be capital T and small t. And when in F2 generation, since we are doing self-pollination, for self-pollination we need to show that the same genes are there on the top as well as on the lower side. That will be the capital T small t on the top and capital T small t on the base. Male and female both will be having the same gametes. Since the self-pollination is done, we will consider the same flower as the male as well as the female flower. Then after using the Punnett square and finding out what will be the products, we can see that out of the 4 there is one plant who is pure tall. Then there are 2 plants which are hybrid tall, and the last plant that will be the dwarf plant. So if you see the phenotypic ratio, phenotypically we can't say what are the genotypes, so we can just phenotypically or morphologically explain that there are 3 tall and 1 dwarf plant. So the phenotypic ratio will be 3:1. And if genotypically, if you try to see, the genotypes of the tall plants are different. So for pure tall it will be capital T, for hybrid tall it will be capital T small t, and for pure dwarf it will be small t. So the genotypic ratio will be such that it will be 1 capital T is to 2 capital T small t is to 1 small t. So the genotypic ratio will be 1:2:1. And hence we can explain the monohybrid cross using this diagrammatic representation. Before writing the answer for the monohybrid cross, you should also write the steps which are included in the monohybrid cross. So the 3 steps which Mendel did for all his experiments were: the first step, that is the selection of the parents. So when Mendel selected the 2 parents, that is a tall plant and a dwarf plant, he made sure that the parents are true breeding by growing them or selfing them for 3 generations. After selfing them for 3 generations, or allowing them to do self-pollination for 3 generations, he has seen that all the generations are producing tall plants only, or all the generations in the dwarf case are producing dwarf plants only. So hence he concluded that these are true breeding plants and can be used for his experiments. Then the second step in Mendel's experiment was to do the cross-pollination. For doing cross-pollination, one of the parent plant, the flower which was there, the male organ was removed from the flower, and then the another flower from the another plant was taken, and the pollen grains were dusted on this plant. Then the seeds were collected separately, and the F1 generation which he got out of this was observed. So when the F1 generation was observed, after obtaining the F1 generation, whatever is the product, these F1 generations were allowed to do selfing. So the third step in Mendelian experiment was nothing but the selfing, that is the self-pollination of the plants, and hence the third step is self-pollination of the F1 generation to get the F2 generation. So in this step, what he did is he did the self-pollination of the plants, and the plants which were produced using the F1 generation and the seeds which were produced using the F1 generation selfing, they were grown separately, and the products were seen. So in the F2 generation, he got the different products. We have seen already in the cross, that is he got the phenotypic ratio as 3:1 and genotypic ratio as 1:2:1. So this is what is monohybrid cross. We have to explain it in a stepwise manner along with the diagrammatic representation and along with a good example. You can take any example, either height of the stem or the flower color, the flower position. You can also take seed color, seed position, any character you can take, but it has to be only one contrasting character. Only one pair of contrasting character has to be taken while making the monohybrid cross. So the next question that we will see in this chapter is: a test cross is a back cross, but a back cross is not always a test cross. Explain why. So first of all, to solve this answer, we should know what is a test cross and what is a back cross. So we can write that a test cross is a cross between the F1 generation and the recessive parent. So that would be the test cross to test what is the product of the F1 generation, what are the genotypes of the F1 generation. Using a test cross, we can predict the genotypes of the F1 generation. Then a back cross. A back cross is a cross between the F1 generation and any of the parent. That means it can be either with the tall parent or it can be either with the dwarf parent. It can be either with the dominant one or it can be either with the recessive one. So this is what is the back cross. A back cross is a cross between any of the parent.